I've mentioned it in previous videos, but after an 8-year hiatus from League of Legends, I eventually came back in Season 12. Now, I never explained why I decided to come back. Honestly, getting back into it wasn't specifically because of the season changes or wanting to see how much the game had changed itself. It's actually because Riot made a much more approachable re-entry point, TFT, specifically on mobile. Right before Season 12 started in late 2021, I was on a health kick and was walking. A lot. While I was listening to podcasts and sometimes watching downloaded Netflix content on these walks, I wanted to have something a bit more engaging to do. Now, playing something like Wild Rift, I felt might take too much attention away from, not accidentally walking into people or traffic. I definitely didn't want to int in real life. So I decided to pick up TFT instead. TFT was a game I felt I could play relatively idly and casually while listening to podcasts on my walks. And it definitely started out that way. I had no idea what I was doing, but was having fun experimenting with different comps and the diversity of gameplay. It was super enjoyable, and before long, I found myself wanting to play more than just while on my walks, and wanting to learn more about the meta, so I'd stop placing 8th. Now, once I started learning more while at home, I decided one rainy night that instead of going for a walk to play, I'd play on my PC while watching something on my second monitor. This is where Riot capitalizes on their ecosystem. You see, to play TFT on my PC, I had to download the League of Legends client, and that includes all of League of Legends itself, despite just getting it to play TFT. Forcing users to download the League client and the game itself to play TFT is genius, and likely why it's not too important that TFT itself generates large revenue numbers. TFT utilizes models from League, and relative to the core game, it's likely quite low cost to maintain and develop. What it does is effectively builds a funnel of transition to full-time LoL players. Now, let's take a step back and explain a funnel. A funnel is the idea that as users go through your product or experience, you have a desired state at the end, like making a purchase, or in our case, becoming an engaged LoL player. At the top of the funnel is your entry point to the experience, and between the entry and completion, there are tons of steps. As users make their way step by step down the funnel, it's likely at least some percent of them churn out, meaning they abandon the funnel, leaving the overall percent who make it from the entry all the way to completion relatively low. Pro tip, that's why it's shaped like a funnel. Now, League has many entry point funnels. For example, Worlds Finals can act as a funnel getting non-players interested enough to begin their journey. But in this case, we'll be talking about the TFT funnel. The top of our funnel is beginning on TFT Mobile. The next step would be where we're currently at in this story, which is downloading the LoL client to play TFT on your PC. Now, this accomplishes a few things. It makes next steps easier and qualifies you as someone with the capabilities to play League on PC. Now, every time you load up the League client to play TFT, you first see all relevant news about League itself. This includes new skins, content, competition, etc. And when you want to play TFT, you first see Summoner's Rift and the other LoL queues available to you. Because you see this every time you go to play, you're exposed to the mere exposure effect. This is a psychological phenomenon where people tend to develop a preference for things merely because they are familiar with them. Basically, the more you see something, the more you begin to like it. So even at a subconscious level, every time you boot up TFT, you likely begin to grow a liking to LoL in general as well. Beyond that, and more consciously, if you're like me, you also over time start seeing things that make you genuinely curious. For me, it was patch notes and esports linkouts. However, I still had no intention of hopping back into League after downloading the client. I was happy to just be playing TFT on a bigger screen than the phone that I was used to. As I played, I got to see all the champions at a higher fidelity because I was on a bigger screen now. And as someone who hadn't played League in ages, seeing new champions and unique abilities made me curious about League itself and how it had evolved. This is where my next step took me. I was vehement in my resolve to not let myself get back into League. But eventually, I found a champion I wanted to try in a bot game. In any funnel, reducing friction is key. In other words, you want to optimize the funnel as much as possible to make taking each next step as easy as possible for the user. Riot already made this step and the following ones easy by making sure, to play TFT, I already had to have all of LoL installed. This meant hopping into a bot game to try out a character took mere seconds. After a few bot games, that was it. I started joining in with friends on normals and the rest is history. I was officially, and regrettably, back into League of Legends. Since then, I've played close to 1,000 games and spent a good amount of money on skins. So when all is said and done, the funnel Riot has created that starts with TFT Mobile is an excellent one that can effectively turn casual auto chess players into die-hard League fans. Keep in mind, you may be a TFT player that has more discipline and not letting it mean you swap over to League, and that's okay. Like I said, a funnel has many points of churn and drop-off, and honestly, good for you for keeping out of it. I wanted to make this video partly to tell the story of how I got back into League of Legends after such a long hiatus, and to explain how TFT acts as such a wonderful funnel for driving both adoption and re-engagement to League of Legends by use of their client and ecosystem. I hope you enjoyed this short but sweet video, and if you did, I'd love for you to take the next step in the Bucky Mayer funnel by liking and subscribing to the channel. Can't wait to see you next time and hope you have a great day. Thanks!